Hello everyone, and welcome, or welcome back, to the Infodump. This show, to catch everyone up, is my way of getting out all the thoughts rattling around in my mind so that I don't use them for evil, or to annoy the people around me. This episode is going to be a little different to the last one. If you've read the title or seen the thumbnail, you know two things about this episode. You know that it's about VeggieTales, and you know that I worked with a special guest for the episode, the delightful She's Always Nervous. My discussion with her actually makes up the majority of this episode, so you won't just have to listen to me blather on like last time. Despite some internet interference, which will explain some interesting editing choices I had to make, we had a fantastic conversation about this show that formed a large part of our childhoods. Before we get into the special guest fun, though, I want to make sure we have a background on what the heck a VeggieTale even is so that we can stay on the same page. VeggieTales started its life as entertainment aimed at Christian children, a show designed to teach those kids life lessons, that God made them special, and that He loved them very much. Those last two formed the ending line of every episode. The history of the show can be divided into a few eras. First is the classic era, which covers the direct-to-video and DVD releases. Next we have the Dark Ages, also known as the Netflix era, which covers the shows VeggieTales in the House and VeggieTales in the City, both of which are unavailable to watch on Netflix, but are available via other platforms if that was your jam. Then finally we have the Renaissance, which covers the run of the VeggieTales show, a return to form for VeggieTales that lasted just beyond Big Idea, the show's production company, closing its doors. Now for a simplified history. If you want a much more in-depth history of VeggieTales, I recommend this video by Fundy Fridays. It's from a couple of years ago, but the content is still super solid, and the Reverend Jen does a great job of presenting it. The original series of VeggieTales videos were conceived by Phil Vischer and Mike Naraki, and as I mentioned earlier, they set out to make wholesome entertainment that combined biblical values with very effective humor. Vischer, in particular, also knew he wanted to do animation, as that was something he had loved since he was young. His love for the show, along with the love that everyone in the original cast and crew had for it, was on full display in the early days especially. This love and care that they put into the project led to massive success, even outside of their target demographic, and there are folks who are not now, or were not ever, religious, who still have fond memories of the show. Now, without further ado, let's get into the true info dump. Zoom me, take it away. All right, so thank you so much for joining me for this info dump about VeggieTales.
I'm so hyped.
Yes, I'm so excited. So, starting off, what do you know about like the backstory and history of VeggieTales?
I've watched a number of like deep dive videos on Phil Vischer and the Big Idea Company, so I know like whatever I've retained from those videos.
Yeah.
And that's basically like I know that, just I don't know if there's any like scandalous details. I don't know those.
I don't know of any like scandalous details. I do know that the Jonah movie pretty much bankrupted them, and that's why there was a bit of a shift in the content when they were under a different corporate umbrella. But now things are sort of shifting back again. It's a lot of folks tend to disavow the Netflix era of VeggieTales.
I think that's fair. It's the redesigns were very confusing, I feel like.
Uncanny Valley. Like, that is not my Larry the Cucumber. Too much eye for face.
Somebody was asking me, like, what is it about it that's strange? And I was like, well, they gave them pupils.
Yes.
They gave them, like, full irises pupils. They don't need that.
They don't need that.
Don't give them people eyes.
It's too much. This is where we're starting to narrow into that valley. Yeah. It's just, no. Yeah. Some would say thankfully, others would say, I don't know, I kind of liked the earlier stuff. It's sort of getting back on a track closer towards what the original was. Like, I watched a more recent episode a while back that the new track they're taking is basically the VeggieTales version of the Muppet Show. And I kind of love that.
I think that'll be good because one of my most like memorable episodes, not like I wouldn't put it in my
Mm,
top, but like one of the more memorable episodes is when they did like the fake like countdown acting like it was like
mm.
live TV thing.
Yes.
So they have that on lock. They have the comedic
Hmm.
timing for that already. So,
Yes.
and I also like that
Yeah.
because I loved the Muppet Show. And when it stopped, I was
Yes.
so hurt.
So, so sad. But we're not here to talk about Muppets. We're here to talk about vegetables. So, you mentioned, something not being in your top. What would be your like top VeggieTales episodes?
Um, those are Lyle the Kindly Viking, um, Madame Blueberry,
Oh, yes.
and Rack Shack and Benny, the Chocolate Bunny episode.
Yes.
It's just a classic.
It's so good.
It's so good. It's so good. It's
Yeah.
everything I needed and more as a child.
Honestly. Like I was born a little bit after VeggieTales started coming out. So my
Hmm.
parents were sort of previewing what sorts of things would it be out there for the good, wholesome Christian children, you know? And my dad has told me this story before. He told me that he watched Rack Shack and Benny, and his thought process was, this is the Bible. I don't know if I'm allowed to laugh at this, but this is hilarious.
They made it
They
funny.
made it funny because that's the way you make something engaging. You make
Hmm.
people laugh
Yeah.
because if they laugh, it sticks in the little grooves of their brain and it's good.
Hmm.
It's delightful. Yeah,
Yes,
Lyle is
it's
a
entertaining and it doesn't like it doesn't just pervert, I guess, the source
yeah,
material. It's not just
yeah,
pretending that they're not like, oh, we can't tell Bible stories and be funny. They're like, we
exactly.
can do this. But yeah, anyway,
Mhm.
sorry, I interrupted you.
No, 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 it's okay. Technically, I think I was interrupting you. Man, we're interrupting each other. The wonders of a Zoom delay. Um, but yeah, Lyle the Kindly Viking is one of my favorites as well, along with the Esther episode and King George and the Ducky. Because the way that the music moved the plot along, I think started
Mhm.
my love for musical theater.
Mm, mm.
And now I am a certified musical theater girly, to the point
Oh,
where probably one of the future episodes of the show will be musical theater info dumping.
nice.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. The music in it is just the kind that sticks with me. And not
Hmm.
even just the silly songs, but the in King George and the Ducky, the song that Nathan sings, the there once was a man, a very rich man. Like that,
Hmm.
anytime I would read that story later on, I would hear Pa Grape in the back of my head singing the story at me. And
Coming in.
it's like I'm pretty sure this is a good thing. It made me remember things, right?
Yeah, for sure.
So we've talked about ones we like.
I did
What
not
about the
like
ones
King
we
George
don't
and the
like?
Ducky.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, that's like that was probably like one of the first memories I have as a child of being like, I don't like this.
Hmm.
Like, this is not for me. I just did
Hmm.
not like seeing Larry in that light. It did not make sense to me. I wish they'd just made a new character to be King
Yeah.
George. Or I don't know, made it Archibald or something and not had
Yes.
it be like a ducky, but something that maybe he would covet.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
seeing Larry be so like Larry gave a child PTSD and I don't
Mm.
understand. Like that's not who I see him playing in
Yeah.
like
Not
every
my
other
cucumber.
role. Not Larry.
Yeah.
There's
And
a genie in there.
that is definitely fair. I think when I was watching it, number one, I was swayed by the music. And number two, I like from a young age, I just conceptualized the vegetables as actors. So it was like,
Hmm.
oh, Larry's playing against type. Good for him. That's always fun from an acting range perspective. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know. Like that's one of the things I love about any kind of media that we consume, the way that everyone will have a different take from it.
Hmm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I can't think of another one that really stands out as like a
Mhm.
like
Like
that
a
was
least
bad.
favorite. Yeah.
I also really loved Larry Boy. I was very,
Mm.
very heavy into Larry Boy.
Oh
So like seeing something you're like so used to, like this is
my.
like the
Mhm.
hero savior character being like, send the boy to war.
Send the boy to the front lines of the pie war.
It's like I'm like, to steal a dog? I can't.
He's, he's like, I don't want these duckies. They're old. Oh gosh. Yeah. Oof. Yeah. The one episode that I, even to this day, kind of have kind of feelings about is the first one, actually.
Yeah, you
Where's
said
God when I'm
that.
scared? Yeah. Because I don't know what it was. Franken celery haunted my dreams. And I'm an anxious person. I don't like being scared. It's a wonder I got into Five Nights at Freddy's because I don't know how I liked that and didn't like being scared in other ways. Um, but
No, I think
yeah,
that's fair.
Frankencelery was the worst. However, the Daniel like shorter story that was bundled with it, one of my
Hmm.
favorites.
Well,
So I would treat that as a reward for getting through the rest of the VHS tape.
I mean, he is the boogeyman. Frankencelery is
Yeah.
the boogeyman. So he was made to scare you too. It is funny that I feel like he's scary in the same way that Five Nights at Freddy's is scary, where it's
Yeah.
just like really basic animation, very basic shapes, and it just doesn't fully form into a thing. Like, I can't wrap my head around this.
I mean, weird connection time, the way my brain works, pattern seeking. Scott Cawthon is Christian. He was making Christian animations before this. Was he influenced by VeggieTales?
Was he influenced by Frankencelery himself? Curse of Dreadbear. Is Dreadbear Frankencelery? Make the connection.
That that's a future video, right? That's a future video for you right there.
Look, I've got
I've
a
connected the
wall of
dots.
strings.
I've connected the dots. You haven't connected yet. I've connected them. Oh, yes. Oh my
But
gosh,
no,
that is
he's a scary guy. I love
scary.
him, but I think he's just a lug to me.
Yeah. And like when I saw him later in the quartet and the yodeling veterinarian of the Alps, that wasn't
Yes.
terrifying. He was just a good old bass boy. He still
He's
had the
just
neck bolts and everything, but he wasn't scary. He was
he
just
needs
doing
them.
what he loves.
Oh yeah. No, yeah, that's a good one. That's a really good one. That I feel like Larry really summed up like who I was. I like connected with him
Yeah.
as the character that I embodied in my daily life, where I was just singing until someone
Mhm.
had to please ask me to shut up.
But it's a musical.
Exactly.
Yes.
That is the energy. That is the
Yes.
energy.
Yes.
Larry was bringing it to the table.
Hmm.
I
See, I
appreciate him.
always I always kind of felt a little bit more like, especially as I've grown older, I feel a little bit more like a Bob or an Archibald because oftentimes I do not understand what is going on around me and it causes me distress.
I feel like some Archibald energy has seeped into me. But he's also a theater kid.
Oh,
Archibald is
for sure. It's just the
heavy
difference
theater
between the
kid.
musical theater kid and the Shakespeare theater kid.
Yeah, he went to
I happen
operas.
to be both.
So I have range.
I am the unholy combination of both.
Oh my goodness.
What would you
Yeah,
say
I
was your
think,
favorite silly song?
oh gosh. Oh heavens, I don't know. You know what's really funny is the one that's been stuck in my head lately. It's not even the one that Larry sings. It's the cheeseburger. It's Mr. Lunt.
Oh,
He's been stuck in my head for weeks. For
so
weeks, he's
good.
been stuck in my head.
It's so
He's living
good.
there rent
Rent
free.
free. Rent
I can,
free. Yes.
yes, that's like probably, I mean, mean, that one's really up there. I'm trying to think what was the one
Mhm.
that I was singing the most because everybody in my family got stuck on Hairbrush Song.
Yes,
And I think
of
I
course.
was like, your plebeians, your normies, we've got to shake it
Mhm.
up. We've got to get past that. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't know. Oh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
You
Um,
go. Let me think.
yeah. I've got a soft spot for the Dance of the Cucumber because that is how I learned to sing at least that one song in Spanish. Um, I always have to fiddle with the octaves because most of the song is fine, but then there's that one bit that dips just a little bit too low.
I can't
Um,
do that.
I can't do that. And so I flip it up an octave and then I go back to the normal octave.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
like Silly Song Remix Hour. Let's go.
Pretty much.
I I
Um,
think that my favorite Larry one, I think I remembered it, is Barbara Manatee.
yes.
I think that would be my favorite Larry one because it's so real and raw
hmm
to be watching a TV show
Yes.
and getting very parasocial with one of the
Yes.
characters
Yes.
and having a headcanon.
Oh
It's
my
very
gosh,
real.
yes. Self-insert shipping at its
Like
best.
100.
One of my favorite
100%.
one of my favorite things about that silly song, I remember an interview with Kurt Heinecke, the composer behind VeggieTales,
Mm.
where there was like an idea for it to be a wackier, silly song, right? But then he came up with like just a regularly written tango and said, "Can we do this instead?" And it's one of the best silly songs
I
because
mean, this
it's one of those that it takes itself just the right amount of seriously, enough to make the comedy just really hit, right? It's
yes, like Larry is taking it 100% seriously, and
yes,
the filmmakers, if you will,
yes,
are moving around him in a way that creates the
yes.
comedy of it all.
Oh,
And him
yes.
worrying that the manatee is going to be too tall, and then imagining a cucumber and a manatee together proportionally. She's going to be too tall, bro. She's going to be
Plus,
too
plus,
tall.
unless we're dealing with some kind of like Chernobyl kind of cucumbers, where the cucumber is
Yeah,
6 feet tall,
pretty,
at
yeah.
which point, maybe,
But I think
might work.
if Larry is canonically like a world fair like record holding cucumber, I do not he's lost some of my like support because I can't imagine it.
Because he's supposed to be small and adorable.
Yeah.
They're all
I want him to
small.
I want him to fit on the kitchen counter.
His head has to fit in an oven mitt.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly. It's
all right.
fashion, sweaty, you
Yes.
know?
It's fashion. Everyone else is doing it. And then he ends up in the sink.
And you know?
We love Rack Shack and Benny. It's a classic for a reason.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Or for a
Exactly.
raisin. Ha ha
Ooh.
ha ha.
Ooh. We're bringing in the grapes now.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to. Somebody's gotta bring in the grapes.
You know. Yeah.
All right. Well, speaking of the grapes, do you have a favorite veggie? I know you've talked about really identifying with Larry, but
Yeah. I know that's so
mm,
basic. That's so basic.
it's
But
okay.
he's just captured my heart from day one. He was the first.
Absolutely.
He has seen
He
everything.
has seen everything. It all comes back to the now. Um,
I've got Bonnie right here.
I do see that, and I
He's my
absolutely love
emotional
it.
support friend. He looks the most like a VeggieTale.
He does.
He's
He's got
just
he's got those goggly eyes. Right. So we are back on. I believe we were
yes.
talking about favorite characters.
Yes,
And
and
Larry was the
Larry is
most like a
mine.
FNAF character.
Yes,
You
easy.
pointed out Bonnie in the background.
Hmm. Yeah,
I do love that plush. The misaligned eyes just kill me. I love it.
he's everything. He is the moment.
He is. He is the star,
Hmm.
the rock star.
Sometimes.
I will see how many puns I can fit into this. Fit,
We got.
force, who knows?
We'll
All
get
right.
there.
We will, in fact, get there.
We'll reach a quota and
Yeah.
surpass it.
Oh yeah, for sure. If we don't, I've done something wrong. Um,
This
but
will
yeah,
not be deemed a success.
literally. No matter what the analytics look like, if there aren't enough puns, I will feel I have failed.
Exactly. And that's your success metric. That's all that matters.
Exactly. I don't care about the views, the likes. I don't care if people get to see ads. I care if I make people groan at my puns.
There it is. That's what you're here to do.
Yes. That is my entire purpose on this planet.
Awesome.
All right. Thinking about favorite characters. I had one and then it left my brain.
No.
I I don't know. I have always been partial to Junior Asparagus. Just because
Mm,
he's just a little guy.
he
He's
is just
just
a
a little
little
guy.
guy. He's
With
just a
with the
friend.
with a little hat that looks like
Hmm.
cheese. An actual insult leveled at him by the Grapes of Wrath, but also, are they wrong though? It is the color
Yeah.
of American cheese.
The grapes, the grapes are honest,
Mhm.
uh, in more of a blunt sense.
Yes, some might
Well,
call him
Bob will
brutal.
take you, well, Bob will take you on a journey and he'll tell you a story and
Mhm.
hopefully you come around to a lesson. Pa Grape is just like,
Listen
I,
here.
yeah, yeah. Learn. You are gonna learn.
All right,
Oh God.
who's ready to go back to Egypt?
We were slaves.
But we had food. Or it was something like that. Josh and the Big Wall is another fantastic episode.
That one's just like it's transcended
It's
VeggieTales. I think
one
that's
might
just
even call it
mainstream
peak.
television.
It's so good. It's
Hmm.
so good. I mean, speaking of it just being good, why do you think VeggieTales is as good and successful as it is?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember what I wrote anymore. But basically, I think it's good because it's not trying to be like it's not trying to just market itself towards Christians. It's not just trying to
Mhm.
market itself as like Bible lessons. It's marketing itself as entertainment. It's
Yeah.
marketing itself as good children's entertainment. They were
Mhm.
like they got Disney animators in there like
Yeah.
making this stuff. They put a lot of thought into making sure their characters had flaws rather than
Mhm.
being just wholesome, vegetables. They have things to learn, which is like makes us relate to them more, which I feel like is
Mhm.
an issue with a lot of children's Christian media specifically, where
Mhm.
your protagonists are so like straight through the whole thing, like on the moral, on the message,
Yeah.
and that's just not realistic for
Yeah, they're
children.
like more Superman than Superman, right?
Hmm.
Like,
Exactly, exactly.
I don't know how experienced you were with Bible Man.
Mm, we watched it.
Yes. Bible Man also had an episode that I couldn't watch because it scared me, and it was the one that was about fear. It did its job too well.
They're like, she doesn't want to learn the lesson.
I'll just be afraid, thank you.
I don't want to face my fears. I'm afraid of them. No, it's fair.
And then I grew up to be a horror fan, so who knows?
Sometimes exposure therapy is all you really need.
Hmm,
I got
honestly.
over my I mean, horrid fear of clowns through exposure therapy. So
Hmm.
I worked in a haunted house for a whole season.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll
Hmm.
do it.
And I realized that those people are way weirder when they're not wearing their costumes.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
They've
Sounds
got a
legit.
script. When they're on, they're on. I know
And
what
they're all
I'm
script
getting.
for worse.
You
Oh,
know?
gracious. Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
but
so, you know,
mhm.
it just happens sometimes.
Yeah. And going back to the point at hand about like
Hmm.
why it was so successful,
Yes.
um, not only like was the storytelling top notch, like it has the same sort of philosophy behind it as Pixar does, where it's literally something for the whole family. It's
Hmm.
not just for the kids and the grown-ups endure it, right? And it's not so much for the grown-ups that the kids are going to be looking and saying, why was that funny? What does that mean? Right?
Yeah.
It's, for lack of a better term, it's wholesome, right?
But it
And
is.
it's so good. And I would say not just for Christian families, right?
Hmm. Yeah, and well, and that's the thing is that like I don't currently practice any religion, but
Mhm.
I would still sit down and watch Jonah like right now
Yes.
and have a very good time. And I'm so sad that that movie was not a
Mhm.
good thing for the company
Literally.
because it was such a good movie. I don't care. I don't care.
So good.
People can say whatever they want. It's a very, very good movie.
It's so good. And the fact that the water animation was so good that if I'm remembering correctly, which I haven't done as much research on this one as I did on the FNAF episode, so forgive me if I get something wrong. Um, if I remember correctly, Pixar animators went to Big Idea and said, "How did you do the water before Finding Nemo?"
Oh, I could believe that though.
I can believe that.
Even if it's not true, the fact that it's believable and not something that I'm
Right.
like, well, that's a bit outlandish.
No, like, because that water looked janky as heck. No, that water looks freaking good. That is the water that bankrupted them, but it looks good.
It's threatening. The storm is threatening.
Yes.
Ugh. And
Yes.
a vegetable. It was about a
It was about a
vegetable.
vegetable. It was about a vegetable who goes to a place where they get slapped with fish.
Which is a really great way to show Nineveh because
Mhm.
for a kid, it's like funny. You're not like terrified of the violent acts. But like they've done very good with that throughout the series with pies and
Mhm.
slushies and stuff
Yes.
like that. But fish is like we're using fish to slap. It's like
Mhm.
that's a bit extra egregious than
Yeah.
like pies and desserts. Like they're like, no, no,
Yeah.
no, stinky big fish.
Exactly. It's
Right to the
stinky. You
face.
might get scratched by the fins, but then when they get to Nineveh,
Hmm.
there's a pumpkin that gets squished.
True.
So the slapping with fishes goes up a notch and they're
You go,
crying and terrified. And I'm just like,
yeah.
I'm a child.
They just squashed that gourd. They did that.
And like it's a non-sentient gourd. I think we do need to make that aware because or we do need to make that clear.
The implications, though.
The implications are horrible. Because
The
it's like
implications.
one little spark of life and that would be an on-screen death.
Hmm. They got close.
They got so close and I want to know how and why.
What did he do? Yeah. No, I get it. No, they did a very good job setting up the stakes without making it like something that parents would be concerned about.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Which like there's things like Prince of Egypt where I can see where some families were even though it's masterful, gorgeous film.
Gorgeous.
And also I think transcends the
Mm.
demographic.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I can see how some families wouldn't have shown their child that because they would have been like, I don't know, they get a little real in there.
And the death of the firstborn.
Yeah.
How we liking that? Young
They
Timmy.
cover the face. They let you know that kid is
Yeah,
gone.
there's no bones about it. There's death. It works so well because it's wholesome without being specifically Christian, evangelical, all that kind of, Bible thumping stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
it just cares about kids learning how to be good people.
yes, yes, without pushing like a specific brand of Christianity or a
Hmm.
specific message other than be courageous, be kind,
Hmm.
don't be a jerk to people just because you think they're weird. You can be their
Exactly.
friend.
You're probably also weird.
Yes, especially if you like this. Anyway, but yeah,
I mean, you have
absolutely.
to like to talk to tomatoes.
Honestly, I forgot the next lyric. Dang it.
Squash can
You
make you
yes,
smile.
you have to love to waltz with potatoes up and down the produce aisle because they've got a show for you. Cue the tuba. Anyway, technically
Good
speaking,
stuff.
it's a sousaphone because it wraps around the body. Um, Fun facts.
Just for the record.
For the record, it's technically not a tuba, but it's the marching band equivalent.
Mm, mm.
Um, Honorary favorite is Gideon Tuba Warrior, which was
What?
it was a later addition to the VeggieTales canon,
Okay,
and
hang on.
it tells the story of Gideon from the Bible, which was one of the judges.
I've never seen this.
Oh, highly recommend, if only for the way that they translated the way that Gideon defeated the I I don't remember what the group that was oppressing the Israelites at that time was, but it was one of them. It was one of them
Just
groups.
go down the list.
Because Judges has a cycle. Like
Mhm.
as a storytelling device, it has like a cycle of the Israelites are fine, and then they start to get a little too sinful, and then God sends another group to say, hey, get yourselves in check. The Israelites cry out for the Lord and he sends a judge, and then everything's fine again. And the cycle continues. It's one of the
Wow.
things I learned in Sunday school. Um, but yeah, Gideon was one of those judges who was sent. I remember who it was. It was the Midianites. The
Mm.
Midianites were not being good friends to Israel, as the Sunday school teachers would say when you
Mm.
were little.
Yeah.
Um, and in this version, there's a marching band twist on the story, and I kind of love it.
You know, it sounds great. That's one I had not heard of.
It's one of my favorites of the more recent ones. It's not like the most recent. It's
Hmm.
pre-Netflix, but it is still it's newer than like what you might call the classic era.
Right, right. Yeah, I think one of those that stood out to me was Lord of the Beans. I really
Yes.
loved Lord of the Beans.
Lord of the Beans is so good. I will defend it with my dying breath. If I don't
It's
know of anyone who speaks against it, but the sporks alone,
don't think about it.
the sporks alone make this worth defending.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Good. One of my few favorites that does not have like a huge musical element.
Yeah, it really doesn't. I mean, they have a lot to get through in that one. I feel
Hmm.
like if they took a lot of breaks to tell songs or to sing songs, we
Yeah.
would have been like, guys, it's an episode.
Guys, your theme song says this is half an hour. Um,
We're pushing it.
we're pushing it. Especially since if you look on the back of the DVDs, they're like 50 minutes long. And it's like, the theme song lied to me. How dare they? Um,
They lied.
they lied.
I mean, technically, it is lasting half an hour. It's
Mhm.
just And then
and then some. But it's like you can't tell a literal minded kid that it's half an hour and then it be longer than half an hour. Because then they'll be measuring car rides by VeggieTales things and being like, how have we gotten so far? It's only been half an hour.
you start to question time and space.
Me. And honestly, I think that's what got me into Doctor Who later. Anyway, just questioning
Fair
time and
enough.
space. All right. I mean, we kind of answered the other question at the same time as talking about why it was so successful, like looking at its appeal outside of the like Christian demographic.
Hmm.
Um, but there was one thing that you mentioned that I wanted to hit on a little bit. Um, VeggieTales was never specifically evangelical or fundamentalist, and if anything, probably felt too secular for some subsects of Christianity. I agree.
Hmm.
Because when I was in undergrad, I went to a I went to a Baptist college because tiki sweet little Baptist girl. And one of my friends in the theater department there, I
Hmm.
found out later on that he hadn't seen VeggieTales until he came to college. He grew up, I want to say Presbyterian.
Mm.
And for anyone who doesn't know, Presbyterians are like if you think the Baptists are straight-laced, Presbyterians are more so.
Yeah. Oh,
They're
certainly.
right up there with like the Calvinists, right? They're the most aggressively straight-laced. And so he never watched VeggieTales as a kid because he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I felt, yeah, because I was raised Baptist and Church of Christ, depending on which
Mhm.
parent had me at the time.
Yeah.
And going from a church where it's like you cannot play musical instruments, there's no
Hmm.
like you have to take this very, very seriously, to Baptist where I was more like you could wear pants and
Yeah.
they played music, they had a youth group band and
Hmm.
uh one yeah, so it's just like my mom never exposed me to VeggieTales.
Hmm.
Not that I don't know if she really would have even opposed it, but she never exposed me to it. It wasn't like, but
Hmm.
on my dad's side of everything, like they were like, "Oh no, we're watching VeggieTales," and it was a thing that if we didn't go to church Sunday morning, if we didn't wake up early enough,
Hmm.
or they just weren't, we were like, eh. Um,
Yeah.
we all had to sit down. And we would watch an episode of VeggieTales or an episode of Donut Man, who I don't know if you've ever heard of.
I don't think I have heard of the Donut Man.
If you ever just want to go on a separate little deep dive, Donut Man is its own thing. Yeah, that's one of the ones where like that was the alternative. Like if we weren't
Hmm.
watching VeggieTales, we were watching Donut Man. We didn't watch Bible Men at home. I only
Hmm.
watched that at church.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
But I think it just at a certain point my family was like we're only investing in so many VHS tapes.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I think one of the reasons why VeggieTales isn't as like indoctrinating
Hmm.
is because it tells the stories like they're stories. It doesn't claim this is absolutely 1,000% what exactly happened back in history. And in fact,
Hmm.
often it takes it out of the history, right? Like
Hmm.
Rack Shack and Benny is a Bible story that's been recontextualized to take place in a factory instead of
Yes.
ancient Babylon. So I have to wonder if that willingness to reinterpret and recontextualize the stories as stories is part of what allowed it to be less, you will believe in the Lord Jesus Christ for all your life, right?
Yeah. It gave you as a child a point of reference
Hmm.
that made sense. And they didn't do that for all of them because I don't believe all of them really needed it. Like David and
Hmm.
Goliath, they told pretty
Yeah.
one for one the way that it was, or the way that they were teaching it to us in church.
Mhm.
And yeah, I because it's a very I mean it's very simple, straightforward. But when
Yeah.
you talk like when you were talking about Esther's story
Yeah.
and the King George and the Ducky, You would have to recontextualize those for young audience. You just have to. They're not going to
Because
understand what's going on.
because with Esther, you get into the context for the Jewish holiday Purim, which, ooh, that's bloody. It's incredibly bloody,
Yeah.
with rampant anti-Semitism like shown in the villain. And then you have Mr. Lunt playing this villain. If you want the kids to love the villain, don't make them like completely awful. Make them
Right.
entertainingly awful, which I think is another thing that VeggieTales did. It didn't fully defang the stories.
Yes.
Because like there are still stakes, there are still consequences, but it helped. Some of the removal of the real world context helped in understanding the story, to be 1,000% honest. And I would think that banishment to the Isle of Perpetual Tickling is worse than death. So
honestly, oh my goodness. I can't even tell you. I can't even tell you how threatening that feels to me.
no,
On
no,
a
no, no,
like
no.
a deep, deep personal level. That sounds awful, awful, awful. No.
So bad, so bad. I mean,
Yeah.
you got a Grim Reaper coming at you with a big old feather? No.
No, that was genuinely harrowing.
Yes.
I think that
And
was
yet
genuinely
Frankenstein is
harrowing.
the one that scares me.
It's the animation though. I think you're
Yes.
caught up on the way he moves. And
It
his
could
eyes
be.
are
It could
funky.
be.
And
Mm.
he's green and his eyes are purple. It's just he's
Mm.
odd. And he has hair.
Yes. Why does he have hair? The only one who should have hair is the peach.
And well, Mr. Lunt has a little.
Yeah, he's just
He,
got a little bit. The
yeah.
peach has like a nice head of hair.
The peach deserves a nice head of hair. And a
And
hairbrush.
and a hairbrush. Yes. But yeah, and then King George and the Ducky. Yeah, how are you gonna tell a story of infidelity and assault and murder by enemy forces to
Yeah,
children?
when you think about the infidelity part, I feel like that's the biggest like, we can show kids war, but that's complicated.
Like, I mean, this might be going a little bit far afield, but there's always been more accepting. There's always been more acceptance for violence in media than sex.
It's the
Um,
facts.
it's the facts. It's the facts. And to the point where I'm probably gonna have to do like a little ducky sound there, to cover that word because
That's
YouTube doesn't like that word.
they don't. They don't.
Oy.
No, I get it though. But yeah, like I think what it gives is it gives you a framework where
Mhm.
those stories are able to stay with you more because when you go on, if you do continue into adulthood, when you're reading or being told these stories in their original context, you have that framework
Mhm.
for like what you're being, like, okay, this is what this story is at its roots.
Yeah.
Now I can dissect all these parts. It's not overwhelming.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
so I appreciate it for all that it's done.
Yes. Why they do what they do. Yes.
And those silly songs are right there in the middle to be like, are you paying attention?
Yes. They give you a little reprieve. They give you time for your brain to relax and just take in a fun little ditty. Um, the ditties got a lot less fun as time went on, for me at least. Like
That's fair.
the classic era silly songs are still some of my favorites. There are some of the newer ones that I enjoy. Like there's one called The Gated Community that is just I think it's from Gideon. I think that
Probably.
might be
This is
why.
one that's eluded me.
Yes. But it's just not only is it funny, but it's musically interesting because it
Mm.
involves a melody and a counterpoint melody, where at one
Oh,
point they're
okay.
singing over top each other,
Uh-huh.
which has become one of my favorite things.
Well, I
And I was
mean,
first exposed to it through the Gated Community song.
The gated community. That's so interesting. I'm like making notes.
It's so ridiculous, and I love it so much.
Yeah, I gotta watch that. I think one of my newer ones that stuck with me for a long time was the hat one. I don't know the names of anything, but it is a great big squash just sat upon my hat.
Yes,
A great
Larry
big
Teisel
squash
hat.
just yes.
Yes, that
And I
is. Oh, golly. What's your name? They've never given me a name. I've been around since show one, and I still don't have a name. What do you think of that? Oh,
I think it's a crime. I think it's a crime.
honestly,
Give the
the
man a name.
scallions need to be named.
The Scallions also sing one of my favorite songs, Not Silly Song. Oh no,
Oh no,
what we gonna do?
we gonna do? The king. Yes.
It's perfect.
It's so good. It's
I
one of the
love
reasons I
everything
love.
about it.
It's one of the reasons I love that segment of the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
Just the music that moves the plot along. It's basically a little teeny tiny opera right there.
Mm-hmm.
There's so
And
little spoken dialogue.
yes, and it like I understand now. Like me as a child, I know the stakes. They want to
Yes.
hurt. They want to hurt him.
They want to hurt him, but instead, there's pizza for everyone. They had pizza?
Honestly, that is kind of a violent song now that I think about like what they're like.
Yes.
They were not they were not slushing yet.
No. They were
They're like,
talking about filling his ears with cheese balls and his nostrils with sorbet. They could use him as a footstool or a table to play Scrabble on, then tie him up and beat him up and throw him out of Babylon.
the tie him up and beat him up is pretty brutal.
And it's so cheap.
And they're just scallions, man. They're just like
they're just bopping along. Quite literally. Heads
murder
moving,
boppers.
leg bits moving.
They are doing it.
It's so good.
They are choreographed. It is memorized. They are on it.
When did they practice this? Do they just have a daily let's sing an awful song about Daniel meeting? Like,
I would
mean, the
not
song is a
even be
bop.
remotely surprised were that the
Honestly.
case.
They're so dramatic, honestly.
They are. I would also love to know if Phil Vischer saw Jesus Christ Superstar as a young or an older.
Yes.
Because
why is that a connection I didn't think of?
I'm just saying I'm just you know what? I'm putting it out.
It's great. It's a fantastic question. I don't know if he'd ever admit to it if he had. Because Jesus Christ Superstar has a kind of iffy reputation among Christians.
It is
because it definitely emphasizes the humanity of Christ rather than his divinity, which that it's flirting with heresy. But also it's I like it. I like it. I will come right out and say I love Jesus Christ Superstar.
But I think it's like a very good example of like a musical. I mean, there's also Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. But just some musical inspirations that allowed more accessibility to these stories. Because like Jesus Christ Superstar talks about things that within the end of times of Jesus's life that we never touched on in Bible school. Like we just did not talk about really even just Judas's motivations. It was just kind of like he did a bad.
Yeah. Judas is the villain. Why do we need to talk about why he would do this?
Yeah. But the context is important.
Yeah. The way that it humanizes both Jesus and Judas is important. I actually wrote a whole paper on that in undergrad because we were talking about Paradise Lost and how it's sort of, for the time, inadvertently humanized Satan. And so I linked Paradise Lost to Jesus Christ Superstar.
That's brilliant. I love that.
Because my brain works like that, and sometimes it's helpful.
I wonder if that is an issue with people who didn't want their kids watching VeggieTales is because they were,
Mm,
they weren't humanizing, they were vegetizing.
yeah,
But you know, relate creating
mm,
relatable bad guys.
maybe. Because like Mr. Nezer in
Hmm.
Rack, and Benny, they had to release a changed version of the bunny song because the kids were singing the original too much. And it was said like, no, that's a bad song. You don't sing the bunny song. The
They
whole
shouldn't have,
point of the show is not to sing the bunny song.
but
You did too good. And so they
they sh
released a different version with different lyrics.
that is so funny. But that's true. You should not have made it such a banger.
If you don't want us to sympathize with the villain, don't give him a bop.
Yeah, don't give Nebuchadnezzar a bop. Don't do that.
Or Naaman the Esther um in the Esther episode. Naaman
Oh,
has like there are those who can't be trusted song,
oh, yeah.
which again, a bop.
Sorry to say.
Sorry to say, awful person, fantastic song.
It's one of those things where I'm like, I wonder if that could have been an issue where they're just like, well, we don't want them singing along with the villain of the story.
mhm. I
But
I wonder. Also the fact that they never portrayed Jesus and his like story. Like they did pretty much every other Bible story, but not Jesus. Do you want to know why that is? Because I actually know why.
you can tell me. I feel like I have an idea.
Phil Vischer's mom was a, a pastor or something along those lines. I don't remember
Hmm.
the exact thing, and I will probably put a little thing up on the screen to correct myself. But Phil Vischer's mom was in some kind of ministry. And so
Hmm.
when he had this idea, he went to her for like, hey, is there anything that we should
Mm,
avoid?
hmm.
And she was like, don't show the veggies praying because vegetables cannot be redeemed. Do not show Jesus as a vegetable. That's heresy. And like one other thing that I can't remember. But it was
I don't.
intentional. Hello, Kitty.
She's gonna knock over my bunny.
No.
She's a menace to society.
Oh, she's
I
a
love
cute
her.
menace though.
Oh yeah, I love her. But every time I'm filming anything, she's just like,
Mm. It is the feline impulse.
but yeah, I knew I remembered something about Phil Vischer saying that he didn't want to
Mm.
portray Jesus as a vegetable, but not the motivations behind why
Yeah.
he was like. But I'm like, yeah, there's no. I agree.
Yeah.
You can show me angel vegetables, you can show
Mhm.
me harbinger of death vegetables, but do not show me Jesus as a vegetable.
I mean, also, if they were doing like Jesus's like life, they'd have to include his death and resurrection, no?
Yeah,
How are they going to show Jesus on the cross? He don't have hands.
I know
He
they
doesn't
don't.
have hands to go on the
They
cross
they
with.
lift via telekinesis.
Teaches their own telekinesis.
I mean, I don't know. They pick stuff up. They the animators create some invisible something
Mhm.
to
Yeah,
like magnetize to other objects. I don't know what they're doing.
I don't know, but I love it. It's the
Yeah.
same kind of logic about how like the Powerpuff Girls can pick stuff up when their hands look like this.
Yeah. It's like,
when
okay,
when you just got nubbins.
yeah. Like, you know what? You do what you gotta do to tell the story.
You do indeed.
I suspend my disbelief for VeggieTales to pick up things.
I would not suspend my disbelief for a vegetable crucifixion.
I couldn't. I couldn't. He'd be
That is not a
suspending.
sentence I ever thought I'd say.
It's just one of those things where I'm just like, whether you believe or not or anything, there's something about it that's like,
It's just a little weird.
yeah, it's like, it's not even like sacrilegious, like you could make humor of it. I'm just like,
Mhm.
this isn't comfortable. This isn't comfortable. I don't like it. That's also, I don't know that you could recontextualize that without
Hmm.
minimizing what happened in a way that would
Exactly.
be problematic for people. Like that one story is
Hmm.
like, nope,
Yeah.
you need to know this one straight off the bat that
Hmm.
it was violent and hateful and betrayal and
Yeah.
yeah, I guess it's ice cream man season now.
Yes. It's getting warmer. Folks are letting their kids go outside into the pollen.
To the pollen.
Yeah, no, pollen, that's getting way off topic. Anyways,
Well, the
honestly,
rumor weed,
yes. Oh, the rumor weed. Yes.
I
Going
can
back
bring
to
it all
Larry
back to
Boy.
VeggieTales. Don't you
Yes.
worry about that.
Going back to Larry Boy. Was there a favorite Larry Boy adventure that you
He only
had?
had like two or three. They did not bring Larry Boy out terribly often.
Okay, so there was the Fit from Outer Space,
Mm-hmm.
Rumor Weed, the
Mm-hmm.
Bad Apple,
Yes, the Bad Apple. I do
and
remember
then there
that
was like
one.
the 2D series as well.
Yeah, I did not venture.
I think I watched that maybe once or twice because we might have had the VHSs for that in my grandparents' church library.
I don't
That's
think I
also how
ever.
I watched McGee and Me, which I don't
McGee and
know if
Me. I don't know that
okay.
one.
McGee and Me, for a slight tangent. McGee and Me is a human child and an animated being. Not sure how old this being is, but he's about
Okay,
this tall, and
a
his
wee
name is
lad.
McGee, and he helps the human child learn life lessons.
All right.
It was right up there with VeggieTales for me. It was like VeggieTales, McGee and Me, Bible Man. And
Nice.
Bible Man only got a knockdown because of that one episode. That no.
To, yeah, Bible Man's story is also very tragic, the way that
It's
it ended up.
Batman. It's Batman.
Well, sure, yeah.
But also I watched the Fundy Fridays video about Bible Man. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. That was sad.
Very unfortunate for him.
Honestly.
Yeah.
Incredibly.
But yeah, I loved Larry. I mean, the Larry Mobile, the
Yes.
suction cup ears, all of it. It was giving camp. It was it was it
It was
was
serving.
it was truly beautiful. I like there was enough action to where you did kind of
Mhm.
feel like you were watching a superhero thing as opposed to like a normal VeggieTales episode.
Yeah.
But they kept it. They kept
Mhm.
it VeggieTales pilled, I guess, where they're
Mhm.
still teaching a lesson. And I feel like that's where Laura Carrot came into prominence.
Yes.
I really felt her energy.
I did not like her.
Oh, she's got issues.
She's got issues. Issues that became like extra clear in the movie in
Mm-hmm.
Jonah, but
I know.
I just never really liked her. Like I think when I was younger, I had almost a forced kinship with her because I too was a small child of blonde hair. Um, and especially a small feminine child of blonde hair.
Why
And there
does
weren't a
Laura
lot of
have
women.
hair?
Hmm?
So why does Laura have hair?
Because we've got to know she's a female,
I think you're
Nervous.
right. I think you're right.
We gotta know she's a girl. She doesn't have
Fair enough.
hair. How do we know she's a girl?
Yeah. A lot more of them now that I'm thinking about it, a lot more of them had hair than I initially had
They
thought
did.
about.
I
I
forgot
think
about
I
Laura
was
Carrot when talking about the ones who had hair.
Yeah,
Because
she has hair, and then the grandpa carrot has those gray eyebrows.
oh yeah, the Scottish
And
one.
mm-hmm. Yep, the Scottish carrot.
Freaking love that guy.
Yeah. I know. And it's just like, what happened, Laura? You clearly had a good role model.
Clearly.
She's
And we
just
were
gotta learn her
assuming that they're
lessons.
related. I don't know that
I
they were
think that they
related.
are in Larry Boy.
Maybe, maybe.
At least he's walking around with her, Anna.
Mm. And that I would hope they're related in that case.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess in Jonah, they're just she's just in the car.
Yeah.
They just got her.
And And then the carrot is the travel agent. Who's like,
Yes.
off you go to Nineveh. It's lovely this time of
Yes.
year.
Oh my goodness, he has his like the dramatic angles of the travel agent. Cinematic. There's that
It's
movie
perfect.
worked.
It
I
works
I'm
so well. Like they
I
had
know
the
it.
Newsboys on the soundtrack. How was it not going to work well?
Yeah, it. I don't know how, like, they spent too much money on it is really the problem.
Obviously, obviously.
It was less that it's like, of course, people go to like, there's other Christian films that do really
Mhm.
well across the board, but they spent too much money on Jonah.
Mhm.
I don't
Yeah,
know what they could have done, but
made it look
it
less
needed to look
awesome.
that good.
Awesome.
Yeah, but
Honestly, that's about all they could have done. They could have cut corners.
yeah, that would not have helped.
No.
Oh well. I'll just
Oh.
take it as a gift.
Yeah.
It was a sacrifice for me specifically.
Yes. All right. So back around to Larry Boy.
hmm
Out of the three, I guess, like mainline Larry Boy adventures, which one would you say you enjoyed the most growing up?
I mean, it has to be Rumor Weed.
Of course.
She's a queen. I know
Did
she's
you
an
hear
evil
the one
queen.
about Alfred?
Exactly. The way, I mean, he captured like a little goss
Hmm.
girl. I don't know what are they called? I don't know, but like the like suburban woman who's
Hmm.
just in everybody in the neighborhood's business. They
Ah, yes,
captured her
the busybody
perfectly.
housewife.
Yeah, just like big lips, could be minding her own,
Mhm.
but is so not. She's bored. She's
I'm a
walking
talking
around
weed,
town.
you're a talking carrot. Your point was
Exactly. She has the
the
attitude.
voice.
She's like she's so like she lacks self-awareness on a level, you know?
Honestly, honestly,
And that's a true villain.
yes.
Just someone with no self-awareness,
Mm.
just forcing their like problematic behavior on everybody around them.
Oh, gracious.
She had a lot to learn that weed.
Oof. Yeah.
But yeah, the fib one I really just don't remember.
I remember it mostly because of one particular moment
Mm.
where Larry Boy is about to get the intel on how to defeat this thing. And then Alfred rolls over the cord and it unplugs the computer. And he's just like, "No!" It's like, oh! And when he plugs it back in and he's like, come on, move back up.
Yeah,
Like, really, he understood the tech issues that we would face today. Quite literally today.
just yeah, actually. Is the fib in the room with us?
Oh no. I haven't rolled over any cords. I think we're good. I think we're
My
okay.
cords are all over here, and I'm looking at them. I know they're fine.
Gracious.
But yeah, that was the one that stood out the most to me. I feel like if
Mhm.
I watched Bad Apple again now, I might remember it more, but I think
Yeah.
because it was later, I watched it less.
Yeah.
But I
See,
did like the production of that one.
hmm the spider imagery of getting
Mm-hmm.
tangled in the web of temptation.
Yes.
So good.
The analogy
And
works.
yes,
All of
it
that
works so
worked.
well. Why she's also an apple with the spider abilities? Eh,
Yeah, they were
I don't
tying
know.
a lot together.
They were tying a lot together. I don't know what would work better with a web. Wait, I know why it was an apple.
Oh, you did, yeah. I thought you were saying why spider.
No, I was trying to figure out the link between apple and spider.
It's the link
It's
between Apple and Temptation.
yeah, I got that. Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know anything.
No,
I'm not a
that makes sense.
theologist.
That makes sense.
Yep, I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, I've only had one cup of coffee today.
Just think that didn't see it enough as a kid to like
Yeah.
latch onto it. But the rumor weed, I could have been her. You know what I mean? Not literally
Honestly.
been her, but
Mhm.
if if I was like an upper middle class kid around
Mhm.
Halloween, I would have been
Oh
like, I
yeah.
want to be the rumor Wade. Let me be her.
Yes.
Um, but yeah, I knew better than to ask for something like that. Oh, you can't go anywhere to get this. No.
No. No, because for all the like mainstream appeal that VeggieTales has, it doesn't really have a lot of mainstream success.
No. Yeah.
Like maybe at like a Lifeway back in the day, you could have found something similar, but it would have been probably very cheaply made, not very ethically made. And it just yeah, it
I feel
wouldn't have
like
been
it
a
probably stopped at Bob and Larry. Like they make a Bob
mm,
costume and a Larry costume, but that's
yeah,
probably where
you know,
the
you
train
are
stopped.
right. You are right.
I did you
Maybe a
ever
junior. Maybe a junior.
maybe a junior. Did you
Because
ever
like
get to see Bob and Larry
I
IRL?
don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I ever got to see like a live show or anything like that. Because
They
that was that was long ago before I was crystallizing memories.
fair enough, fair enough. Well, I'm let me not age myself, but I did go to a bookstore. I assume a Christian bookstore,
Mm,
but who knows what it was called. And they were
yeah.
there. And
Nice.
they had arms and legs, and it was not okay.
No. No.
They had full arms and legs sticking out of their
Oh,
costumes, covered in like red or green, like bodysuits
no.
under there.
No, 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 no,
They
no,
really
no.
should have just not been there.
They should not know. Why? Where's the telekinesis?
It was yeah, it was a treat. I don't think we went and did like a meet and greet with them, but I think I do remember as a child just being like,
That don't look
mm-mm.
right. That's some Netflix nonsense over there. No.
Yeah, why he got fingies? Eh.
Oof, I think that just about killed me.
Oh no! I'm so sorry.
Ooh, gracious. Pollen season has started. Were there any
Well,
sort of last thoughts that you had about VeggieTales that we didn't quite get to cover?
not real. I mean, just it's just one of those things that has just stuck with me forever, and I'm like
Mm,
very grateful to have had it. Like even if I lived an entirely secular life, I would have still liked to have been exposed to VeggieTales. It's like it
mm.
just feels like culture. It feels
Yeah,
like culture, and I just
it is.
really, I mean, it does. I don't know, and so I'm just really grateful to have those memories and have that uh bank
Yeah.
of knowledge and memes and quotes to pull from in my life. It's very lovely.
Thank you so much for coming and talking with me and for persevering through the tech issues. The Larry and Sumo of the opera would be very proud of you. The
I
perseverance
know a lot about
episode.
perseverance.
Oh, yes. The the perseverance the perseverance is strong with this call.
Yes. Ugh. Well, it's been lovely. It's been lovely.
Once again, my deepest thanks to Nervous for chatting with me on this episode of the Infodump. You can find her here on YouTube, putting out fantastic theories about Five Nights at Freddy's and, recently, other internet horror sensations like Gooby. Thank you all for watching, and I hope you stick around by subscribing and ringing that notification bell, because next month's Infodump is going to fill you with determination. Talk at you later.